The interstellar market on Station Zephyr was a swirling mass of colors and sounds, with merchants from dozens of star systems calling out in a variety of alien tongues. Neon signs flashed above stalls selling exotic wares, from shimmering fabrics spun on distant planets to spices that smoked gently even in the cold of space. Jack maneuvered through the crowd with a practiced ease. As Earth's diplomat, he was used to navigating not just political landscapes but literal ones filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Today, he was accompanied by his colleague, Tomos, a seasoned explorer with a knack for linguistics, and their mission was simple: to foster goodwill among the station's diverse inhabitants. Tomos pointed towards a stall draped in luminescent cloths. "Ever seen anything like that, Jack?" Jack shook his head, his eyes wide with the novelty. "Every time I come here, it's like stepping into another universe." They approached the stall, and the vendor, a creature with iridescent skin and 6 eyes, presented them with a garment. "This fabric, made on Gliara, changes color with your mood." Tomos laughed, his intrigue apparent. "We'll take 2. One for me, and one for my friend here." As they exchanged credits, a commotion nearby drew their attention. A small crowd had gathered around another stall, where an alien merchant accused a human-like figure of theft. Jack's diplomatic instincts kicked in. "Let's go see if we can help," he suggested to Tomos, who nodded in agreement. Pushing through the spectators, Jack spotted the accused. She was taller than a human, her skin a deep blue, and her eyes a vibrant green. She stood calm, her voice steady as she spoke to the merchant. "I did not take anything. Please, check your inventory again." Her accent was unfamiliar, her tone resonant with an underlying melody that hinted at her alien origin. Jack stepped forward, raising his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Maybe I can help sort this out," he said, addressing both parties. "I'm Jack, a diplomat from Earth." The merchant grumbled but nodded, allowing Jack to mediate. After a quick discussion and recount of the goods, it was clear it had been a misunderstanding. The merchant apologized gruffly, and the crowd dispersed, leaving Jack with the blue-skinned alien. "I'm Irina," she said, extending a hand, which Jack shook. "Thank you for assisting. Not many would." Tomos chimed in with a smile. "Jack's got a soft spot for trouble. Seems you owe him one now." Irina laughed, a sound that seemed to make the air around her shimmer. "Perhaps I do. Would you care to join me for a drink? My way of saying thanks." Jack exchanged a look with Tomos, who nudged him with a grin. "Go ahead. I'll catch up with you later." As Jack followed Irina to a quieter part of the market, set aside for dining and negotiations, he felt the first stir of curiosity about this mysterious alien and her people. Little did he know, this chance meeting would lead him far from the bustling market of Station Zephyr to worlds and wonders he had yet to imagine. Chapter 2. A Gesture of Peace. The diplomatic banquet was in full swing in the grand hall of Station Zephyr, a vast room with ceilings that mimicked the starry sky of the cosmos. Tables laden with delicacies from countless civilizations filled the space, creating an aroma that was both intoxicating and overwhelming. Jack and Irina entered the hall, greeted by the hum of 100 conversations mingling with the soft symphony of a cosmic string quartet. As they found their seats, Irina leaned in, whispering, "This is quite the gathering. Your people organize such events often." "Whenever we can," Jack replied, scanning the room. "It helps to break the ice and foster peace through shared experiences. Food, music, it's universal." As they sat down, they were joined by another human, Mark, a cultural attaché with a keen interest in alien societies. He extended his hand to Irina, who responded with a nod, the customary greeting of her people. Mark's curiosity was evident. "Irina, tell us about your planet. I've heard it's quite different from anything we know." Arena smiled, a flicker of pride in her eyes. It is. Our cities are built around the concept of harmony with nature. Skyscrapers interwoven with greenery, waterways as streets, and a society that thrives on the balance of technology and ecology. Jack was fascinated. It sounds beautiful. What brings you to the station? I am here to learn, just like you, Arena explained, to see and understand other cultures. My planet is quite isolated. We seldom venture out. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their first course, a delicate soup that shimmered with bioluminescent algae. Mark raised his bowl in a toast to new friendships and cultural exchanges. They all laughed and took a sip, the warm light of the soup casting a glow on their faces. As the evening progressed, more dishes came and went, each a new universe of flavors to explore. Later, the president of the station, a wise old being known simply as Elder Grex, approached their table. His appearance was striking, covered in ceremonial robes that told the history of the station in intricate embroidery. Elder Grex addressed Arena directly, his voice booming yet kind. "Young one, your presence here is a bridge between your world and ours. Would you honor us with a visit to your home? I believe there is much we can learn from each other." Arena's eyes widened, clearly taken aback by the invitation. She looked at Jack, seeking reassurance. He nodded, encouragingly. "It's a great honor, Arena. Elder Grex doesn't extend such invitations lightly." With a deep breath, Arena accepted. "I would be delighted to host representatives from the station, and I extend that invitation to my new friends here as well." Jack and Mark exchanged excited glances. This was more than just a casual dinner. It was the beginning of something potentially groundbreaking. As the banquet wound down, and the guests began to depart, Jack, Arena, and Mark lingered, discussing potential dates for their visit. The night had started with a simple meal, but it ended with the promise of a journey that could change their understanding of the universe. Together, they stepped out into the cool night of the space station, the stars above them not just points of light, but destinations, each holding the promise of new friendships and discoveries. Chapter 3. Through the Stars. Jack and Arena stood side by side in the docking bay of Station Zephyr, gazing at the sleek spacecraft that would carry them to Arena's home planet. Alongside them, Mark fiddled with a gadget that promised to translate even the most obscure dialects. "So, this is the vessel that will take us through the stars?" Mark asked, his tone a mixture of awe and skepticism as he eyed the alien technology. "Yes, it's one of our finest explorers," Arena replied, her voice brimming with pride. "Built to traverse the cosmos in comfort and speed. You'll find the journey quite pleasant." Jack looked over the ship, its hull shimmering with a metallic sheen that seemed to change colors as they moved. "I've traveled on many ships, but this seems extraordinary. Arena, your people truly are master engineers." With a nod from Arena, they boarded the ship. The interior was a harmonious blend of technology and art, with walls that pulsed gently with light and seats that molded to their bodies' shapes. As the ship detached from the station, the gravity stabilizers kicked in, and the sensation of liftoff was nothing more than a gentle ascent. Mark, ever the enthusiast for alien tech, peppered Arena with questions. "How does the ship handle radiation? What kind of propulsion system does it use?" Arena, pleased with his interest, explained the workings of the ship's ion drives and the shielding techniques her people had developed. "Our technology is different from yours. We focus on sustainability and harmony with the forces of space." As the ship sailed through the cosmos, the stars outside the viewing deck shifted and danced. Jack and Mark spent hours watching, until Arena called them to the ship's observatory. "This is where you can see the universe in its true form," she said as they entered a room with panoramic views of the cosmos. The walls here were clear, providing an unobstructed view of the nebulae and star clusters. "It's breathtaking," Jack murmured, his eyes wide with wonder. "Yes, it is," Arena agreed. "Sometimes we forget the beauty of space when we are caught up in our daily lives." The journey continued with shared meals where Jack and Mark learned more about Arena's culture, its music, its philosophies, and its deep-rooted connection to the cosmos. In return, they shared stories of Earth, its diverse cultures, and the human spirit of exploration. One evening, as they neared the planet, the conversation turned to their mission. "What do you hope we will learn from this visit?" Jack asked Arena, curious about her perspective. "I hope that it will open paths for future cooperation," Arena said thoughtfully. "My people are cautious, but I believe this visit can show them the benefits of interstellar friendships." Mark nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars. "And for us, it's a chance to expand our understanding of the universe. There's so much out there, so much to learn from each other." Their discussion was interrupted by the pilot's voice over the comms system. "We are approaching the planet. Please prepare for descent." As the ship descended through the atmosphere, Jack, Arena, and Mark gathered at the observatory, watching as the planet's surface came into view. The planet was a tapestry of greens and blues, with vast oceans and sprawling continents dotted with glowing cities. "This is your first glimpse of my world," Arena said, a hint of nervous excitement in her voice. "Welcome to Eloria." Their arrival was met with both anticipation and trepidation, but as the ship landed smoothly on a platform that seemed to sprout from the ground itself, Jack felt only excitement. They were about to step into a new world, a new culture, and if all went well, forge a new understanding that could bridge their peoples across the stars. Chapter 4. The Sacred Grounds. As the ship's hatch opened, Jack, Mark, and Arena were greeted by a gentle breeze, carrying the fresh, earthy scent of Eloria's vibrant flora. The landing platform, located just outside the capital city, offered a panoramic view of the rolling hills and towering structures seamlessly integrated with the natural landscape. Arena led them down the platform where a small delegation awaited. The group was headed by an elderly Elorian named Sino, who held the esteemed position of cultural guardian. Beside him stood two other officials, both exuding a formal but curious demeanor. "Welcome to Eloria," Sino announced, his voice deep and melodic. "It is rare for us to host guests from beyond our stars. We hope your stay will be enlightening." Jack stepped forward, extending a hand, which Sino accepted. "Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here and learn from your people." Mark, not one to shy away from interaction, chimed in enthusiastically. "The approach through your atmosphere was stunning. I've never seen such integration of city and nature." Sino smiled, nodding appreciatively at Mark's comment. "What you see is the core of our philosophy. Come, let us show you more." The group was escorted through a series of pathways that showcased the ecological technology of Eloria. Buildings with living walls, water purification gardens, and energy trees lined their route, each a marvel of bioengineering. As they walked, Arena explained the significance of their surroundings. "Each structure is designed to support life, both our own and the planet's. We believe in coexistence, not dominance." Jack listened intently, absorbing the scenery and the philosophy. "It's incredible. On Earth, we're just beginning to understand the impact of our existence on the planet. There's much we could learn from you." Their tour brought them to a serene park, at the center of which stood a monument resembling a tree, its branches stretching skyward. "This is the Memorial of Continuance," Arena explained. "It commemorates our commitment to sustainability and peace." Sino gestured towards the monument. "Many generations ago, we faced crises that could have ended our civilization. It was the wisdom of our ancestors that guided us to adopt the principles you see today. Mark, ever curious, asked, "What kind of crises?" Environmental and societal," Sino replied. "Our planet was dying from our former ways. It took great effort and unity to change our course." The conversation shifted as they continued their walk, leading to a discussion about the spiritual beliefs of Eloria. They stopped at a quiet lake, its surface reflecting the clear skies and green surroundings. "This lake is considered sacred," Arena told them. "We believe it's where our spiritual essence returns after we pass on. It's a place for reflection and connection." Jack looked around, moved by the tranquility of the setting. "It's peaceful," he remarked. "A perfect place for reflection." They spent the remainder of the afternoon discussing various cultural practices, beliefs, and the potential for sharing knowledge between Eloria and Earth. Sino and his colleagues shared stories of Eloria's past, while Jack and Mark offered insights into human culture and history. As the day drew to a close, the group shared a meal on the shore of the sacred lake, the Elorian dishes as colorful and unique as their planet. The food was another layer of their culture, each bite telling a story of Eloria's rich history and vibrant present. The evening ended with a gentle Elorian music performance by the lakeside, the harmonious sounds blending perfectly with the natural chorus of the planet's nightlife. "Tomorrow," Sino said as they prepared to depart, "we will visit the archives of Eloria, where our history and knowledge are preserved. It will be an opportunity to delve deeper into our society." Jack and Mark thanked their hosts for the wonderful day. As they walked back to their guest quarters under Eloria's twin moons, both felt a deep sense of connection to this alien world, its people, and their profound respect for life in all its forms. Chapter 5. Forbidden Feelings. As the Elorian night settled over the guest quarters, Jack found himself unable to sleep, his mind buzzing with the day's revelations and the serene beauty of Eloria. He stepped out onto the balcony, where he found Mark already gazing at the night sky. "Can't sleep either?" Jack asked, joining him at the railing. Mark shook his head, a slight smile on his face. "It's all a bit much, isn't it? To think about how much we can learn here, and what this means for Earth." Jack nodded, his thoughts drifting. "There's something else, isn't there?" he ventured, noticing the contemplative look on Mark's face. "It's Arena," Mark confessed. "There's an understanding between us that I didn't anticipate. It's both exciting and a bit unnerving." Jack understood. His own interactions with Arena had stirred feelings he hadn't expected. "I feel it too. She's remarkable, and being here, seeing her world. It's profound." The two stood in silence for a moment, each lost in his thoughts under the twin moons of Eloria. The next day, Arena joined them early in the morning. "I thought I'd find you here," she said, her voice soft. "Did you enjoy the night view?" "It's beautiful," Mark replied. "Not just the view, but everything. Your people have built something very special here." "I'm glad you see it that way," Arena said as she led them to the dining hall for breakfast. Over the meal, she seemed more reflective, occasionally pausing to choose her words carefully. "Today we will visit the archives," she reminded them as they finished eating. "It's a place very close to my heart. I spent many days there as a student." As they walked toward the archives, a magnificent structure carved into the side of a mountain, Arena continued to open up about her life on Eloria. "I was always fascinated by the stories of the past, how our ancestors navigated challenges to preserve our world. It inspired me to step beyond our borders and learn from others." Inside the archives, they were surrounded by vast walls filled with books, artifacts, and interactive holograms that told the history of Eloria. Arena showed them ancient texts and tools, explaining their uses and significance. "Each item here represents a step towards understanding," Arena explained. understanding our planet, our people, and now, hopefully, our visitors from Earth. Jack was deeply moved by the depth of knowledge and the care with which it was preserved. As Irina demonstrated a holographic model of Eloria's ecosystem, her hand brushed against his. The touch was light, but it sent a jolt through him, a feeling that was hard to dismiss. "Irina," Jack began, hesitating as he chose his words. "Being here with you, learning about your world. It's more than just a diplomatic mission for me now." Irina met his gaze, her eyes reflecting a mix of emotions. "Jack, she paused, searching for the right words. "I feel a connection too. It's unexpected, but it's there." Mark, observing their exchange, decided to give them some space. "I'll go ahead and look at the other exhibits," he said, tactfully withdrawing. Left alone, Jack took a step closer to Irina. "This is uncharted territory for both of us," he said. "But I want to explore it, if you're willing." Irina nodded, her expression resolute yet vulnerable. "Yes, I want that too." Their conversation was interrupted as a group of scholars entered the room, reminding them of their roles and responsibilities. But the moment they shared lingered, a promise of possibilities that neither was prepared to ignore. As they rejoined Mark and continued their tour, the weight of their burgeoning feelings added a new layer to their understanding of each other and the fragile yet beautiful world of Eloria. Chapter 6. Under the Moon's Light. The evening found Jack, Mark, and Irina walking along the luminous pathways of Eloria's capital. The city was aglow with bioluminescent lights, casting an ethereal sheen over the streets that wove through the natural landscape. They had spent a fulfilling day at the archives, and now the conversation shifted towards the personal as they made their way to a well-known local viewing spot. Mark, always eager to lighten the mood, gestured broadly at the scenery. "You know, every evening here feels like walking through a dream. How do you ever get used to this, Irina?" Irina laughed softly, the sound blending harmoniously with the rustling leaves around them. "You don't, really. Each day feels just as magical as the last. But tell me, do you have places like this on Earth?" Jack took a moment to think, his thoughts intertwining with memories of Earth. "We have our natural wonders, yes, but nothing integrated like this. Our cities are different, more concrete, less alive." As they reached the viewing spot, a cliffside that overlooked the sprawling cityscape with the planet's twin moons reflecting off the waters below, they paused to take in the view. It was a breathtaking sight that rendered them all momentarily speechless. Mark set up a small device that projected a star map of the galaxy above them. "Look here," he pointed to a cluster of stars. "That's where Earth is, way over there." Irina leaned closer, her interest piqued. "It seems so far, yet here you are. It makes one realize how small yet boundless our universe is." The mood shifted as the night deepened, and Jack found himself standing slightly closer to Irina. Mark, noticing the subtle change, excused himself. "I'll go check on the other side of the viewpoint. Maybe we can see the northern lights from here." Left alone, Jack turned to Irina, his voice softer. "Irina, about earlier in the archives." "Yes." Irina faced him, her expression open and expectant. Jack took a deep breath, the cool night air emboldening him. "I felt something. When we touched, it was like a spark. Not just curiosity or friendship, but something more profound." Irina's gaze held his, her eyes reflecting the moon's light. "I felt it too, Jack. I was afraid to acknowledge it, considering our circumstances." Jack stepped closer, their hands almost touching. "Maybe we shouldn't ignore it. What we're doing here, it's about connection, understanding. Isn't it?" "Yes, it is," Irina replied, her voice barely above a whisper as she moved her hand to lightly touch his. And perhaps it's okay to explore this connection, to see where it leads. Their hands finally met, the contact sending a shiver through them both. They stood there, under the light of Eloria's moons, letting the world around them fade into the background. After a moment, Jack spoke up, breaking the serene silence. "We should head back soon. Mark will wonder where we've wandered off to." Arena nodded, her smile gentle. "Yes, let's go back." They walked back to the city, their hands brushing occasionally, each touch a silent affirmation of the new bond forming between them. When they found Mark, he was looking up at the sky, a content smile on his face. "Did you see the lights?" Jack asked, slipping back into the role of a friend and colleague. "I did," Mark replied, turning to them with a knowing look. "And I think I'm not the only one who found something spectacular tonight." The three laughed, the earlier tension dissolving into the night air, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and an unspoken understanding of the new emotional landscape they were navigating together. As they headed back to their lodgings, the twin moons overhead shone brightly, casting a hopeful glow on the path ahead. Chapter 7. The Warning. The next morning brought a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Despite the radiant Elorian sun and the cheerful chirps of the native wildlife, there was a tension that hung in the air as Jack, Mark, and Arena prepared for a meeting with the Elorian Council. The trio walked to the council chambers, a structure that rose organically from the ground like a giant tree, its branches arching into elegant canopies above. As they entered the large, round meeting room, they were greeted by Sino and other council members seated around a circular table. The walls were adorned with woven tapestries that depicted the rich history of Eloria, providing a somber backdrop to the discussions that were about to unfold. Sino rose to greet them. "Welcome, friends from Earth. Today, we discuss the potential for deeper cooperation between our worlds." His voice, though welcoming, carried an undercurrent of seriousness. Mark nodded, taking his seat next to Jack. "We appreciate your hospitality and openness. It's our hope that this is just the beginning of a long and fruitful relationship." Arena, who sat across from Jack and Mark, shared a brief, concerned glance with Jack before turning her attention to the council. "Council members, I've brought these representatives from Earth not just to learn about us, but to understand how we might benefit mutually from an exchange of knowledge and culture." One of the council members, an elder named Torin, leaned forward, steepling his fingers. "We recognize the benefits, Arena. However, we must also consider the risks. Our isolation has preserved us from many galactic conflicts. How do we ensure that this opening does not bring unintended consequences to Eloria?" Jack decided to address the concern directly. "I understand your concerns, and frankly, they are valid. We come in peace and with the utmost respect for your ways and your world. Our aim is not to disrupt, but to learn and possibly aid in our mutual growth." The conversation deepened, with various council members expressing their views. The discussions were intense but respectful, with both sides clearly eager to find common ground. As the meeting drew to a close, Sino delivered a final statement. "There is a saying among our people, 'Don't you dare to kill humans.' They warned. It is a reminder of the devastating effects of fear and misunderstanding. We must proceed carefully, ensuring that our actions do not harm what we strive to protect." The warning resonated with everyone in the room, emphasizing the gravity of their decisions. Jack nodded solemnly. "We will take every precaution. Our goal is harmony, not disruption." After the meeting, as they walked back to their quarters, Mark broke the silence. "That went better than I expected, though the warning was quite stark." Jack agreed, his mind on Arena's earlier look of concern. "It was necessary, though. It's a clear reminder that our actions here must be considerate and deliberate." Arena joined the conversation, her voice thoughtful. Sino's words are not just a caution but a historical lesson. We've had our share of troubles in the past when fear overtook reason. It's crucial we don't repeat those mistakes. The rest of the day was spent in less formal settings, visiting various cultural and scientific facilities. Despite the Council's warning, the mood was cautiously optimistic. The Elorians were gracious hosts, and every interaction was marked by a genuine desire to bridge the gap between their worlds. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the landscape, the trio sat by a reflective pool in one of the public gardens, discussing the day's events. "This is an opportunity for all of us," Jack mused, watching the light dance on the water. "Not just as representatives of our planets, but as individuals who believe in the potential of connection and understanding." Mark and Arena nodded, the weight of responsibility clear, but the hope for a positive outcome guiding their path forward. As the stars began to appear in the twilight sky, their conversation drifted from diplomatic strategies to personal reflections, strengthening the bonds they had formed far from home. Chapter 8. A New Dawn. The early morning air was crisp as Jack, Mark, and Arena gathered their belongings for the journey back to Station Zephyr. The visit to Eloria had been transformative, filled with profound discussions and the blossoming of unexpected relationships. As they stood on the landing platform, waiting for the ship that would take them home, they reflected on the experiences that had brought them closer, not just to each other but to an entire world. Arena, usually composed, displayed a hint of emotion as she turned to Jack and Mark. "I never anticipated this mission would lead to such deep connections. You've both shown me not only the diversity of humanity, but also its capacity for understanding and respect." Jack adjusted his bag on his shoulder, smiling at Arena. "We could say the same about you and your people. You've opened our eyes to new possibilities, Arena. This isn't just a farewell, it's a commitment to continue what we've started here." Mark nodded in agreement. "Exactly. And we'll make sure the cooperation between Earth and Eloria grows. This is only the beginning." The sound of the approaching ship broke their reflective moment, its engines humming softly as it landed. The pilot disembarked and greeted them with a nod. "Ready when you are," he said, gesturing towards the open hatch. As they started to board, Arena paused, looking back at the fading silhouette of the city. "I've made a decision," she announced, turning to face Jack and Mark with a resolute look. "I will be coming with you to Earth." Jack's eyes widened in surprise, a surge of happiness mixing with concern. "Are you sure, Arena? This is a big step." "Yes, I'm sure," she confirmed, her voice steady. "Sino and the Council have given their blessing. It's important that this partnership isn't just about distant cooperation, but also about personal ties. I want to be there, to help bridge our worlds together." Mark clapped his hands together, a grin spreading across his face. "That's fantastic news. Earth won't know what hit it." They laughed together, the tension of departure easing into excitement for the future. Boarding the ship, they found their seats near the windows, buckling in as the pilot prepared for takeoff. As the ship ascended, Arena watched Eloria shrink beneath them, a jewel of nature and technology. Jack took her hand, offering a silent reassurance that she had made the right choice. The journey back was filled with plans and discussions about the upcoming introductions and presentations that Arena would participate in on Earth. Mark outlined several key meetings with cultural and scientific leaders, while Jack discussed potential public addresses and interviews. "We'll need to prepare you for the media," Jack mused, half joking. "They're going to love you." Arena smiled, her apprehension about leaving her planet for the first time alleviated by their encouragement and support. "I trust you both to guide me through it," she said. As they neared Station Zephyr, the cosmos stretched out before them, stars and nebulae painting a backdrop of endless possibilities. Mark looked out the window, his expression thoughtful. "Looking at all this, It makes you realize how small our problems are in the grand scheme of things. Jack and Arena agreed, their eyes also fixed on the vast expanse of space. It was a humbling reminder of their place in the universe, but also of the impact one small step could have on the future. The ship docked smoothly at the station, and as they disembarked, they were met by a delegation from Earth, eager to welcome Arena. Flashbulbs popped, and microphones were thrust forward as they walked into the terminal, the beginning of a new chapter not only for them but for the relationship between two worlds. This was a new dawn, one that promised growth, understanding, and above all, a shared journey towards a better future.